Welcome to your Barbados Today Evening News Update for Wednesday, May 20. No date has been set for when airlines will resume flying to Barbados. Word of this from Tourism Minister Carrie Simmons as he updated reporters on developments in the sector. Simmons says the Grantley Adams International Airport remains closed to commercial traffic until June 30, and once it's safe to reopen, then the island will make the move. He, however, stressed that any decision to reopen the country will be data-driven and not date-driven.
Bottom line is, we all know that the perfect scenario would be to have a vaccine. In the absence of a vaccine, to have a cure. But that is several months away. People speak loosely about 18 months, but again, the medical science suggests that that would be a best case scenario, and that sometimes vaccines take several years to evolve. In the meantime, life frankly has to go on, and we're going to have to some extent to exist with this threat that we call COVID until such time comes. So therefore, ours has to be about managing the risk, minimizing the risk, and making sure that we can still do business while we protect people as best as is humanly possible in the circumstances. So I cannot give you a date on which the airlines will be returning. We have taken a position that the airport remains closed to commercial traffic until the 30th of next month. If in the happy circumstances arise that you have significant improvements and we can feel confident that it is easy to reopen, then that decision will be taken. But until such time, we are going to be very guarded on this matter and go as fast as the data allows us to feel comfortable and the circumstances allow us to feel comfortable. Going about it phase by phase, step by step, gives us an opportunity to protect our people while still giving us an opportunity to develop some economic activity, which is absolutely critical to the same people as well.
In other news this Wednesday, Prime Minister Mottley and her Canadian counterpart Justin Trudeau today discussed the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. A statement released by the Canadian government said the leaders zeroed in on ongoing efforts to protect the health and safety of citizens, especially the most vulnerable. Mottley and Trudeau both acknowledged the severe impact of the pandemic and shared the view that there must be strong global leadership to build a more fair and inclusive world for all countries. Canada pledged its support for the Caribbean.
Part of the difficulty is lack of familiarity as to where persons can place people's pension funds. There's a high fiduciary value, and unless there's some kind of intermediary that reduces the risk, we don't benefit from it. But let's go further. In most developing countries, you have a case of high debt to GDP. You have a case of low growth. So that on the face of it, we're not going to be worthy investments. And that's why there has to be a special mechanism for small island developing states. And coming out of the Samoa pathway next year, we need to be able to say, look, there has to be financing for development that is set aside for small island developing states. If we don't do it, then we leave us to the vagaries of the winds. And the winds in this environment and in this century are not very good for us. So I pray that in spite of the focus which is critical for pension funds to make investments based on a fiduciary platform, that there still has to be a focus on special instruments for financing for development for small island states, because they're not going to negotiate our environments easily.
In today's COVID-19 update, 2 patients recovered from the viral illness today, bringing the number of recoveries to 70, while 13 people remain in isolation. There were no new positive cases among the 155 tests carried out yesterday. Therefore, confirmed cases remain at 90. There have been 7 deaths, and the Best de Santos Public Health Laboratory has now completed 4,322 tests. The Sanitation Service Authority is appealing to businesses in and around Bridgetown to better dispose of their garbage. The SSA's Public Relations Officer Carl Alf Padmore made the call after an SSA crew discovered large card boxes and other garbage dumped in drains.
We want to appeal to the businesses in and around Bridgetown to show more care as to the manner in which they dispose of these boxes. We would like them to collapse them, and because each business place should have a suitable receptacle in front of it. Or they can contact the Chamber of Commerce and they can come up with a plan. Bridgetown is ripe for recycling and for separation, and we would really hope that the businesses in and around Bridgetown would find it necessary to embark on a recycling program that can benefit them. The less bulky waste around Bridgetown means that there's less waste for vagrants to rubbish through, and there will be less waste for the rats to have a playground.
It's World Metrology Day, a special focus on measurement experts. The CARICOM Regional Organization for Standards and Quality says national standards bodies are critical, and at this time they have been trying to find ways to support essential services on the front line of the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as the business community now resuming operations. Cross-View Technical Officer for Metrology David Tomlinson underscored the importance of the work being done.
In addition to those on the front line, I must applaud my colleagues in the metrology community who have been doing their part to battle COVID-19. Some of you have been working assiduously throughout the lockdowns to support the testing laboratories and clinical services with calibration of their measurement devices, such as clinical thermometers and dosage devices, to ensure persons are diagnosed and treated properly. Others of you have been working to design and support the manufacture of critical medical devices, such as respirators. And we have seen where our colleagues in the standards development community have been making key related standard specifications, such as those for personal protective equipment, available free of charge.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
To regional news now, the opposition Jamaican Labour Party wants the government to clearly outline its protocols for how Jamaicans seeking to re-enter the country will be handled. The call comes as more than 1,000 Jamaicans on board a Royal Caribbean cruise ship return home. We get the details in this report from Television Jamaica.
Those Jamaicans on board and their family here in Jamaica can now have some peace that they are finally back at their home.
Opposition spokesman on tourism Dr. Wickham McNeil, moments after the Royal Caribbean Adventures of the Seas cruise ship pulled into the Falmouth Pier on Tuesday. Dr. McNeil, along with opposition spokesman on national security Fitz Jackson and Member of Parliament for Trelawney Northern Victor Wright, visited the area to witness the arrival of the ship. For Mr. Jackson, the matter should not have come to this. However, he hopes there's no recurrence.
And the Jamaican government, any Jamaican government, or whichever administration, has responsibility for all its people all the time. These 1,044 Jamaicans are not any different from another 1,044 Jamaicans in St. Thomas, St. Mary, St. Catherine, or anywhere else in Jamaica that find themselves in a situation for which the government have a responsibility to respond to.
The long-awaited arrival of the ship has come, but for those aboard, the wait continues. Those disembarking will be tested in the sterile area being set up around the port starting Thursday. However, all will not disembark at the same time. Instead, they will come off the ship in batches of 200 every 48 to 72 hours, which means the process of getting all on land could take up to 2 weeks.
Can you imagine the Jamaicans, 1,044 of them, on the ship looking back now to land at Jamaica, what they're feeling finally to be home. And I think it's important for the government to recognize something. They're not doing anybody a favor. It is their duty, their responsibility to look out for Jamaicans both here and overseas, abroad.
On the international scene, a powerful cyclone has pounded eastern India and Bangladesh, killing at least 14 people and destroying thousands of homes. Officials say the situation is more worrying than the coronavirus pandemic. More in this report from Al Jazeera Television.
The storm brought heavy rain and strong winds, uprooting trees. More than 500,000 people have been evacuated to emergency shelters in West Bengal and another 150,000 in the state of Odisha. Bangladesh is evacuating around 2 million people.
Many people have come to the shelter since morning because the river's banks have broken down. Here, most of the houses aren't made of concrete and bricks. People here live in basic structures out of mud.
The densely populated, low-lying areas around the Bay of Bengal are used to cyclones, but emergency authorities say Amphan will be harder to manage as they try to stop the spread of the coronavirus.
We are dealing with two disasters for the first time. The first disaster is ongoing, COVID-19, which you all know about. And during this outbreak, another disaster is now in front of us, which is in the form of a cyclone.
Emergency shelters are only being used at half capacity.
And while evacuating people, it is also being ensured that social distancing is maintained. So for this purpose, in addition to the existing shelters, government is also finding out the special avenues to accommodate the people.
While East India and Bangladesh are in the storm's path, heavy rain and flooding from Amphan killed 2 people in Sri Lanka.
That's news, but for the very latest, visit our website at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media and bus terminals, as well as Screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. You can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM.